More on our top story now. The president pulling his health care bill off the table before the House even voted. Speaker Ryan telling the president the votes were just not there. And with more on that, let's welcome our KTVU political analyst, Brian Sobel, to the table. Brian, how are you?
Good to see you, Frank.
A little piece of humble pie, perhaps, for the president today?
Yes, it was a tough day for the president. It was also a tough day for the Speaker, Paul Ryan.
Yes, indeed. And what's interesting, Democrats were kind of crowing their wings saying, look what we did, but ultimately it was people in the president's own party.
Right, it had nothing, actually it had nothing to do with the Democrats because not one Democrat was going to vote for it or against it. Well, all would have voted against it, but not one for it. And what President Trump and Paul Ryan were unable to do were to bring the more conservative, what they call the Freedom Caucus members of Congress over primarily, and other conservatives, but the Freedom Caucus is 29 members, and we're hearing word that maybe the president and Paul Ryan had 200 votes. You needed 216.
So he was shy, good 16 votes.
Yes.
So they had a lot of work to do.
Yep.
Well, interesting to note, the Democrats are always going to oppose him one way or the other, but people in his own party, he's got to bring them to the table.
Well, as I've been saying, you know, anybody who thinks the Democratic Party or the Republican Party are these monolithic, one-size-fits-all parties, don't really understand what's going on in Washington. All of these people have to go back and talk to their own constituencies. Right. Some are very conservative, some are moderate, some are even kind of in liberal Republican districts. That tells you that when they go back, they have other different things they have to say to all these people. So they're not always going to vote as people predict.
And business versus politics. Is there a lesson learned by the president today?
Oh, I think so. I think what he's learning is that there are three branches of government. He's been shut down by the judicial branch now on immigration. You have what's gone on in Congress. And what I think he's learning, as somebody who's never been around politics, is that there are three branches of government. That's the way it works. You can have an opinion, but you got to go sell your opinion to other people. And
do you think the president might soften his tone on other issues down the road now that he's kind of got a taste of D.C.? Well,
I think the American people and the body politic would hope he would for the purposes of pursuing his agenda, which includes next up tax reform, which may be a little lower hanging fruit for him. A lot more Republicans would be for that. And so to tackle the Affordable Health Care Act right out of the box, we're hearing whispers out of Washington, D.C. President may not have even wanted to do that as the first thing to tackle, and Paul Ryan very much after 7 years wanted to see that, you know, right out of the gate.
Absolutely. And what's next for the health care bill? I mean, that was his baby all throughout the campaign. He said that's the first thing I'm going to do when I get into office, and now Obamacare is still here to stay, at least for a while.
Well, it is, and whether they will get back to it in 2017 is maybe doubtful at this hour, but they do have a bill and reforms in the mix. We'll see whether they have the energy, frankly, Frank, to bring it back. This was a stinging defeat today for the president and for a lot of members of Congress, for the leadership of Congress on the Republican side, but not for some of those real conservative members who say, hey, this bill didn't tackle the important reforms we thought were necessary.
How does the president and the speaker now go to those ultra-conservative Republicans and bring them onto the team?
Well, they have to do it by saying, hey, this bill will include elements like tort reform, a real plan for prescription drug reduction in pricing. All sorts of things have to be in that new bill that conservatives were worried about, you know, really tackling things like the deductibles and the pricing structures and all those things that you heard conservatives really concerned about.
Okay, Brian Sobel, always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your insight.